things before I do the introduction to Mr. Bergman. Everyone should have a handout. In the back of that, there's an evaluation sheet that you can fill out towards the end, and fill out that information. Also, there is some additional information I'm going to give you that I think that'd be very helpful after the seminar is over to really help reiterate some of the things that we talk about when we talk about some of these strategies. It's a DVD that's going to have a CPA talking about some of the advantages that you could take, some of the things you can take advantage of when it comes to saving for retirement, and the best place to do that with. And for those that are working and participating in 401ks and deferred comp plans, there's some clips that 160 Minutes did about 401k plans, and Bloomberg News did about 401k plans that I think you'll find very interesting when they were comparing the 401k versus the pensions. And turned out that the pensions won, and how the 401k plans are ripping a lot of people off when it comes to fees and things of that nature. So I want to share that information with you so you can either get it a DVD copy, or if you include your email address, I can email you those clips as well, because I know some people may prefer to watch it online or on their phone and things of that nature. So once again, you can fill out that evaluation sheet at the end, and I'll get that from you. And any questions you may have, you may take notes down, and Scott could be more than happy to answer any questions at the end of his presentation. Once again, I want to thank everyone for coming out this evening. For those of you that don't know my name is Julius Lewis. I host the Lewis and Morrow Financial Radio Talk Show on WTCC 90.7 FM every Wednesday morning from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. along with Tom. I've been working in the financial industry for over 15 years. However, for the last 10 years, I've been working as an independent agent. Being an independent agent, I've learned a lot, but more importantly, it has allowed me to speak more freely and honestly about financial products, which are massively marketed to the public, but leaves people very little understanding of these products. Scott Bergman has played a major part in my development, growth, and knowledge and the benefits of tax shelter type strategies. He's a certified estate planner, training hundreds of agents for various insurance companies. Scott has an actuarial training background and is a strong advocate on full disclosure when it comes to financial products. Scott is the president and founder of Edge Insurance Consulting, which is a financial firm that specializes in the creation of tax-free wealth and tax-free retirement income. As a friend and mentor for the last 10 years, through attending his training classes and seminars around the country, Scott has helped me gain a better understanding of financial products from a contractual point of view versus the more commonly marketed bullet points. Which leads me in closing to say, I am brilliant because I know that I am not, so I listen to those who are. Ladies and gentlemen, Scott Bergman.
Do I have to use this, or can you hear me okay? I feel like I should be telling jokes when I have one of these. It's interesting. I was in Texas for the last couple of weeks, and I'm dealing with some of the NBA players out there. We work with Harden from the Houston Rockets, he sells. We recently worked with Avery Bradley here for the Celtics. And we never really get to talk to the ball players. We see them for about 6 seconds. And then we talk to the gatekeepers, the guys from Merrill Lynch who handle all the millions of dollars for these gentlemen. And what we try to get people to understand is, as you create wealth, a lot of people do it through IRAs and 401ks. We defer everything to the back end of our lives. We get a tax write-off, we set these up, so we save a little money on our taxes, but then we push everything to the back end of our lives, and that entire account is taxable. And what we find is people, when they want to live a good lifestyle at retirement, if all their money's locked up in an IRA or 401k, every dollar that comes out is taxable. And it's so easy to jump from a 15% tax bracket today, 15, federal, then 5 or 6 state, to go to a 25% tax bracket with 7 state. And people who just really thought when they retire they'd be in low income tax brackets because they weren't working. They find out it doesn't take much to jump into a 25 plus state. So, married filing jointly today, a husband and wife can make $74,000. Now a lot of times, the person worked at a place for a long time, they have a pension coming in, and maybe the wife gets Social Security. They're real close to that mark. And if they want to take money and they want to travel, they want to do something for the kids or the grandkids, and they pull money from the IRAs, they find out that they're in a 33% tax bracket state and federal. So what we try to tell people, and I've learned this over the decades, the smart investors that worked with me, when I was in my late 20s and early 30s, they were 45 and 50. Now I'm 60. These guys are well into their 80s. But I watched how they retired. And the smart people were those that created two income streams. A taxable, IRAs, 401ks, and they created a tax-free income stream. Roth IRAs, Roth 401ks, municipal bonds, life insurance, where they could create tax-free cash. And when they get into their retirement years, they balance distributions from both income streams to make sure Uncle Sam gets as little as possible. You know, years ago I used to feel really good about paying taxes. Not anymore. I really don't. And when I see the abuse that goes on in this country, you know, 3 years ago, the United States Treasury sent $20 billion out to falsely completed tax forms. When I saw that, I said, how is it possible that a nation as large as ours, that the mainframe computer, which sends out all the money from the U.S. Treasury, doesn't have any backup plan to make sure that the Social Securities are legit? So I've changed my attitude towards taxes. I pay my taxes, but I want to pay as little as possible, and I try to get folks to understand how you do that is creating tax-free wealth. So our seminar that you're going to see is something. I'm going to stand over here. Actually, I'm going to stand over here. All right, does that make it easier for you? All right. In 2003, I have a large organization. I have 1,700 advisors around the U.S. And I travel the country pretty extensively. I do live in Wilbraham. I'm just very seldom here. And Julius said, when are you going to be back in Massachusetts and stay here for a while? And I said, probably sometime in the beginning of May. So that's why he set this up. But in 2003, I got together with our core group of managers. These were guys who've been with me 15, 20 years. We all lost a lot of money in the stock market. Our IRAs, 401ks, they were all ripped up from the bear market. But we looked at what was impacting not only ourselves, but what about people that were in their retirement or getting close? How did the bear market affect them? And we realized the market is too volatile today. You can't count on the stock market to go a great length of time without having a big bear market. So we started doing two things in 2003, and we never looked back really. The first thing we decided to do is stop deferring into the future. Stop pushing taxes off to the back end of our lives when we retire, because that's when we're starting to pay a lot of taxes. It's better to pay some tax today and have everything tax-free on the back end. The other thing we decided to do is find a way to link to the stock market, but to do it with a contractual guarantee of principal, so that when the market went down, nobody loses any money. Now the trade-off, obviously, if we're going to link to the stock market when it goes down, no one loses money, that means when the market goes up, we're going to have a cap. We're going to have limited potential on the upside. But the trade-off is, the next crash we have, I'm not going to be part of it. I'm not going to lose any money. And when the market goes up, instead of earning 16, 18%, maybe I'll get 10 or 12%, and I'll be capped. So that's what we created. And the seminar is called Common Sense Strategies for Creating Tax-Free Wealth and Creating a Tax-Free Income. We always look at our mission statement, and we're dedicated to increasing your circle of wealth through the application of cutting-edge financial strategies to discover hidden wealth transferred unintentionally, and we mean through taxation, and to redirect this wealth to enhance your estate, improve your lifestyle, and provide a comfortable, rewarding retirement. I always like to start with tax brackets. How many people in the room think taxes might be a little lower in the future? Never seen a hand on that. And if I said, how many people think, sometimes PowerPoints and different laptops come out a little funny. But the next one should have said, how many people think taxes will stay the same? Anybody? And if I said, how many think taxes are going to be higher? Everybody in the room. So we know that. So we started the question, well, if we know taxes are going to be worse down the road, why are we just foregoing paying the tax now and pushing it off to the back end of our lives when we know taxes are going to be higher? Let's start thinking about some tax-free options. So when we look at our greatest expense during retirement, this is an interesting survey. Now, this is people that have $1 million of assets, but they're between the ages of 70 and 75. Now, this is counting their house, their 401ks, their automobiles, everything they got. This is what their bottom line was at the end of the year. This is where their money went. The biggest expense was taxes. $25,000 plus in taxes, and they had real estate taxes, capital gains, property taxes. Why would somebody who's not working have their greatest expense be personal income tax? It's the way we are taught to save for the future, right here. Open up an IRA, open up a 401k. You got a tax break today, you save a little money when you do your taxes to Tom. But down the road, you got to pay taxes when you withdraw, and if you pass away, you got to pay, your heirs will have to pay taxes. Someone's going to have to pay the taxes. So the big question is, well, I'm sorry about the way that comes out. I think we did this on a Mac, and now that it's on a PC, it's a little funny stuff. But is postponing tax is really a good idea when our benefits will be taxable in retirement and probably at a much higher tax rate. So there's a great article from Forbes magazine in 2004. It talked about exactly that. Some people, the only thing they're saving for retirement in is IRAs and 401ks. They got nothing else going. So when they retire, all their liquid assets are all taxable. And based on what they want to do in their lifestyle, they start running into deep tax brackets that they never saw coming. So let's take an example of somebody who saved for retirement using all IRAs and all 401ks. And let's say they put $6,000 away for their future. They did it for 35 years. They would have put in $210,000. If their tax bracket along the way was 33%, every year they opened up an IRA contribution, they'd save $2,000 on their taxes. And in 35 years, they would have saved $70,000. And if they earned 7.5% on their money along the way, that's how you get $1 million. It takes 35 years, but if you put $6,000 away, you get a decent interest rate, you have $1 million. And now, at the end of our road, if we wanted to take $75,000 a year, which is the interest, now we got to pay Uncle Sam on the back end. And if we're in a 33% tax bracket, we got to give the government $25,000 so that we net $50,000. And what we found with our clients during the retirement years, opening up IRAs and 401ks, they save $70,000, but they pay $500,000 in taxes from ages 65 to 85. So the big question is, whose retirement are we really planning? Is it ours or is it this guy? You know who he is, right? All right, well, we think that IRAs and 401ks were set up for the U.S. government, not for individuals. So we're starting to do things different. If we were farmers and we had a choice of paying taxes before the seeds went into the ground, on this money right here, or forego that, and then wait to the harvest and then pay taxes on the harvest, well, everybody would pay taxes on the seed. So that's what we try to do with people when they come into our office and they say, I want to set up a retirement account for my future, for my daughter, my son, or myself. What we tell them is open up Roth IRAs. Not an IRA, open up a Roth. Now you have to pay the tax today, but that money going forward and all the money that accumulates is all tax-free in the back end of your life. So instead of an IRA, think Roth IRA. Let's take a look at how important it is. You know, what's the beauty and magic of tax-free growth? If we go back to that example, when someone had $1 million, it was all deferred into an IRA or 401k, and they wanted to live on $75,000 a year, that's not asking a lot. If you have $1 million, $75,000 should be a decent amount. But in order to net 75, if it's all taxable, we'd be in a 35% tax bracket. We have to take out $115,000 to net the 75 that we want to spend to live on. And what we find is, when a person gets to 64, life expectancy is 84 to 88. Well, you'd be out of money before age 80, because to live on that $75,000, you have to take out $115,000 a year and pay the taxes. Now, what a different scenario. If we could find a way to accumulate that kind of wealth, well, we already paid the tax early, so it's all tax-free in the back end. If we wanted to live on $75,000 with no tax, all we got to do is take out $75,000. And then what we have is, well, you can take $75,000 forever. Of course, we don't live forever, but you can take it to perpetuity and still have still have $1,075,000 to pass on to your heirs. You never run out of money because you eliminated Uncle Sam on the back end of the taxes. So, what are the income tax-free alternatives in the United States tax code? We have 4. The first one is Roth IRA. Does anyone have a Roth here? Roth IRA? Very nice. Roth is good. Yep. And for those of you that don't, you can start thinking about any future payments for your retirement. Start to think Roth. You probably got enough taxable later on. Sorry. Oh, I didn't know if that was a sneeze or a chair. Okay. The second one is 401k Roth. So how many people work when you have a 401k? Okay. Less than 3% of U.S. companies make 401k Roths available in their prototype. So if you work in a place where there's a 401k and no one's ever mentioned 401k Roth, get a few of the people together, the employees, go into the benefits coordinator and say, look, we need to get the plan administrators to put this program into this company to put the prototype in for a 401k Roth. Give us the opportunity to save money, pay the tax today, but start to build some tax-free wealth on the back of our lives. And you can jockey half of it in a 401k and half of it in a 401k Roth. The third thing we have is municipal bonds. These are tough. Munis don't pay a very high interest rate today. If you grab the Wall Street, they might pay 2.25%, 2.5%. But everybody's worried about the municipalities going bankrupt. We're talking about cities and counties running out of money. So our guys that trade bonds said, you know, it's better to have the money in cash. It's probably safer because the munis are paying such a low rate of return. And then the fourth thing we have is life insurance loans. These are the 4 things in the tax code that are tax-free. We got Roth, 401k Roth, municipal bonds, and life insurance loans. These things you can extract the cash, not pay any taxes on the growth once you pay taxes initially, and then have it tax-free in the back end. So let's take a look at it. A Roth is good. I know we have one person with a Roth, but a Roth says if you're under 50, you can put $5,500 away into a Roth, you'll pay the tax, but now you've got that $5,500 rolling along for the next number of years, compounding without any taxation. If you're over 50, you can put $6,500 away. And it could be a CD, it could be an annuity, it could be a bond portfolio, stocks. Julius and Tom, they've got all kinds of options for 401k, for Roths. The problem with a Roth is the tax code won't let you create one if you're making more than $127,000 as a single person or $188,000 married and filing jointly. So most people, they have enough room to open up Roths. 401k Roth is better. The beauty there is there's no income restriction. So regardless of how much money you can make, you can qualify for that. And again, with a 401k Roth, if you get the prototype put into your plan, they'll allow you to put up to $17,500 in there if you're under 50. And you can put $23,000 in there if you're over. So you get an opportunity to put, now you don't have to put 23, you can put 1,000, but up to 23 or up to 17,000. And the next slide talks about municipal bonds. There's no age or income restrictions. Your money can be tied up for a long time if interest rates rise on municipal bonds. Not much of a rate of return, maybe 2% if we're lucky today. And again, a lot of the guys who trade bonds say, I'm afraid to open up a bond today because this state is talking about running out of money, they can't pay their unemployment, so you got to be a little bit sharper on your game to find the right municipal bonds. And last, we have life insurance loans. Now, according to the tax code, there's no age or income restrictions to buy a life contract. They're guaranteed safety through the legal reserve system. And their tax-free dollars accumulate in life insurance because of these 2 sections of the tax code. Section 72E and 7702 states that the most unique feature of permanent life insurance, that's not term, but a policy that has a cash value to it, that cash is allowed to accumulate without taxes, and it can be accessed by pulling the money out tax-free. How many people in this room know that? Just a couple. That's interesting. The greatest tax advantages in the U.S. tax code are in life insurance, and everybody dislikes it. Nobody likes life insurance. The agents know very little about it, the tax code, and most people have never heard about the possibilities of what you could do with a life contract. And that's because this industry that I work in, you want to become an insurance professional? Take a test out of Saturday morning at a college, and you're in. The amount of training that goes on in this industry for life insurance agents is pathetic. So I teach a course around the country to get agents and advisors. Don't sell anything unless you've read the contract and understand it from front cover to back cover. And that's extremely important because you can hurt a lot of people by putting them into the wrong life insurance contracts. But the tax code is very specific. It says if you put cash values into a contract, you can take them out later in life through policy loans, and you don't pay any taxes at all. There are people that have built a completely tax-free retirement through a life contract. Now the problem we had is, by the way, there's another set of codes. It's called Lifetime Endowment Codes. The endowment contract, it establishes in the tax code how much money an individual can put into a life contract, into the cash values, based on their age, their sex, their health, and how much life insurance they're purchasing. So, in 2003, when we looked at life insurance, just about everybody in that room, including myself, believed in buy term insurance and put the difference anywhere else, but don't give it to Mass Mutual, Northwest Mutual, John Hancock, or Metrocom, because you never get a good rate of return. And getting the money out through policy loans, you'll borrow at a much higher rate than what they credit to the borrowed funds. So what we saw was negative loan provisions. It cost money to get money out of the contracts. We looked at the loads and the fees of the whole life contracts. We saw a lack of transparency and disclosure. And we wouldn't put any money of our own into a life contract that we saw in 2003, let alone our clients. So what we did is we approached a big British company that came into the United States, Old Mutual. They're home based in Johannesburg, South Africa, and London, England. They're a big multi-billion-dollar conglomerate, Old Mutual. And they came into the United States and they were buying Fidelity and Guaranteed Life Insurance Company down in Baltimore, Maryland. And they approached the chief distribution officer and they said, well, the first thing we're going to do after we buy F&G, Fidelity, is we're going to build a new life contract. And if you want to have some of the salespeople or the wholesalers involved, we would recommend it, bring them in, work with the actuarial team. Well, the chief distribution officer was a friend of mine for 30 years, and he knew I had been an actuary in the 80s, so he said, Scott, you want to come into Baltimore in the summer of 2003? We're going to build a new life contract. So I said, is it going to be indexed? And he said, yeah. So I went in, and I worked with an actuarial team and some other people like myself. And what we did is we built a life contract and we removed everything in there that we didn't like, which prevented us from ever selling it to ourselves or our clients. We took the loan provision, instead of borrowing here and crediting here, we said borrow and credit at the same interest rate. So when people pull money out, there's no cost, no fees, no loads, no expenses. Let's make the cash value inside these policies accessible after a year. Why lock the money up for 15 years? If you lock the money up that long, you can start playing around with the interest rates and doing all kinds of things to the policy, and nobody's going to go anyways because they're stuck. So let's make the money liquid, accessible after a year. And then we said, let's look at the way life insurance companies create the growth on the cash, and let's get it out of their hands and put it in the hands of something else other than the insurance company. Let's have a direct pass-through to the stock market, but we'll do it with a guarantee of principal. We built the second index life contract in the country. There's now 53 of them today. And these 53 companies will do over $1.5 billion of life insurance premium. And people are coming into my office and saying, I don't really need life insurance. I don't really have a need for it. But I realize that the rate of return on the cash values that I could place inside this product outperforms any other place I can put money today where it's safe. CDs, bank accounts, treasuries, bonds, they're all paying 2 to 3%. You guys are averaging 7 to 8 in these indexes with a contractual guarantee of no loss when the market goes down. So that's what I want to do. So here's the money that I'd like to put in. Tell me what the minimum death benefit is that I have to buy to make the tax code happy. And I want to put my money in as fast as I can, and I want to have access to it, and I want to build tax-free wealth. So let's talk a little bit about life insurance. I know we all dislike it. Nobody likes life insurance. Nobody likes the idea that somebody's going to die in order to get it. But think about the opposite end of the spectrum. It's also a phenomenal financial tool because the tax code allows us to put cash values into a policy, take them out later in life without any taxes, without any fees now. And if the right contract is built, it is a phenomenal way to accumulate wealth. When you we think of a handful of companies doing $1.5 billion, and I'm working now with, I say NBA players because I really don't work with those guys. I never get to see them more than 6 seconds. But it's the gatekeepers that handle all their money. The Merrill Lynch guys, Edward Jones guys. These are the guys that we have to go through and make sure that it passes the test. And it's passing the test. So, quick ride through these. It's only a few slides. It won't be boring, but once we understand how life insurance works and understand how we changed it, you'll see it's a phenomenal product. Quick question before I start. If I ask the audience what color was a stop sign, what would everybody say? I said, what color is a yield sign? What would everybody say? Okay, everybody said yellow, right? All right, hey, red. Watch. That's a yield sign. Now, 90% of the people in the room say yellow. The first time I saw it, I went, yellow. And I showed red, and I went, whoa, whoa, wait a minute. I actually climbed into my car, drove down to the end of the street where I knew there was a yield sign. Son of a gun, it was red. It hasn't been yellow in America since 1971. But my point is, sometimes we're sure that we know the answer to something, or that we know what's going on. So whatever your preconceived notions are of life insurance, it's clear your heads, because you're going to get a different outlook on it. So we're going to go back and we're going to start in 1759. I promise you that the next slide is not 1760. But this is the first company that sold life insurance in America. They're actually still in business today. It's called Presbyterian Administrative Fund, and the only thing that was sold back then was term insurance. And the most popular plan was decreasing term, which means, well, today the face amounts are $100,000, back then they weren't. But if someone bought $100,000 of life insurance with decreasing term, it would be $100,000 when it started. And the premium today for a person 35 might be $300. Well, every year as you get older, the cost of insurance goes up. But you still pay that same $300 and you just buy less and less and less insurance until eventually it runs out. And the concept back then was good. Everybody said, hey, I'll buy it when I'm young and I have a family, I need protection. But at the end of the road, I should have plenty of money to pass on to my kids and heirs, so who needs life insurance? Well, everybody got to the end of the road, they're in the same boat then as they are today. Most people barely have enough money to get through your own retirement, let alone leave things to other people. So they said to the industry, yeah, it seemed like a good idea, but now we really need the protection. Isn't there a way we could have built a contract where we paid a level premium and the insurance never went down? So come to the rescue in 1860, the Nautilus Life Insurance Company, they're now called New York Life. They solved the problem. They created permanent life insurance, or for the whole of your life, or whole life insurance. And what they did is they took that initial concept of decreasing term, which might have been $300, and they added a second component, a cash value. And now they raised the premium to $600 a year, but they could now guarantee that $100,000 death benefit would always be paid, because as the insurance decreased, the cash value increased, and the two together equaled $100,000. So now they can pay a level premium and always have the death benefit. Pretty simple stuff, right? And it ran that way until the 1970s. See how fast we just blew through 300 years? You know, it's funny, when I showed that 1759, I was in Fleming's last night in West Hartford. I think there were 60 people there. When I put the 1759 up, one guy went. And I said, it's going to be quick. 3 slides, I'll be up to 1970. Well, what happened in 1970? Does anyone remember what CD rates were? They're high. Yeah, 14, 16%. We actually saw a CD for a guy in Tennessee. It was a 7-year CD at 21%. Imagine that? So what happened was when, CD rates were up to 21, Ralph Nader and a couple of senators, Proxmire and Hart, they introduced a bill in the Congress called the Truth in Life Insurance Bill, because what they were saying is, hey, wait a minute. All this billions of dollars that these insurance companies have from the cash values that we're feeding them, are they giving a fair shake to the rate of return to the consumers in this country? They didn't think so, and they were right. So they introduced the bill, but the insurance industry lobbied it and defeated it very strong. What they were looking for was full disclosure of the cash account. Why are people making 3 to 4% when CDs are at 16 and 18? What kind of contract is that? Well, they wanted a statement to go to every policyholder that said, if you have a cash component in your life insurance, we're going to give you a statement now that shows you this is what you paid, this is what we deducted for loads and fees and expenses. Good things to know. This is what we deducted for the cost of your insurance. This is where the rest of the money went. This is what it earned. And here's how you get it out if you want it. We should have known that right from the start, but we had no disclosure. So we didn't get it because they killed the bill, but they got some great publicity. This is a friend of mine, Andrew Tobias. Andy's a Harvard grad, lives in New York City. He's written a lot of books. He wrote this book in the late 1970s, The Invisible Bankers, Everything the Insurance Industry Never Wanted You to Know. And what's interesting, there's a quote in that book that we use almost daily in our practice. Now, it was written by this guy, Elizar Wright, who was a former insurance commissioner in Massachusetts. He was also a consumer advocate. When he looked at the Nautilus Life Insurance and New York Life whole life policy, he said, with the other insurance commissioners at the time, there was about 17 of them back then, he said, no, we can't sell this policy in America. It's not fair to the consumer, because as things are mixed in the policy, which ought to be kept separate, the protection element and the savings element, and as the knowledge of what is going on under it from year to year is necessarily almost wholly understood by the insurance company, if anywhere the facility for swindling in life insurance is so great, but the wonder is that it should ever be conducted with any degree of honesty. Oh, it's a powerful statement. But what the guy was saying was, we're doing two things here. We're collecting money for retirement, cash values, and we're buying insurance, and we're not giving a disclosure of how much is going where. Are we going to get away with this? Well, they did. And it's still being sold today. We can go down to State Street and get a whole life policy from Mass Mutual, read it from front cover to back cover, and never get enough information to make an informed decision. Lack of transparency, lack of disclosure. And that's what this gentleman was saying. Ralph Nader said it a little different. 1973, he said there's something seriously wrong when an industry whose top 5 companies control 44% of its $235 billion in assets squeezes the earnings of an insecure migrant sales force, massively misinforms or underinforms about the public about the very nature of price of its primary product, and yet continues to grow and make money at a rapid rate. That was Ralph Nader. So, after the Truth in Life Insurance bill didn't get passed, they got President Carter to sign off on the Federal Trade Commission report. They did a 2-year investigation into life insurance, and they found that consumers were losing billions yearly by inappropriate life insurance choices. They were talking about whole life. And they said that the savings elements of the whole life policies were yielding 1 to 2% on the average, and that the holders of older policies may be losing money. So, everybody started to cash these in. Thought we had some nurses who were going to hang in here. You know, the most popular plan for this is registered nurses. Do we have any registered nurses left here? Well, okay. Well, that must have been our registered nurses. Okay. 1981, Howard Ruff got on TV and he said that if you own a whole life policy, you want to make some money, take all the cash out through a loan. You can borrow it at 6%. And bring it down to the bank and put it into a CD at 16. How much money would you do that with? All of it, right? Get out as much money as you can. Well, loans increased from 10 billion to 45 billion, and people started to surrender the policies because they knew as interest rates rose, these contracts would never keep up. The disadvantages of universal life, or of traditional life, were obvious to us, which is why we never sold it. Poor returns on the cash, not enough disclosure, limited exit strategies. You borrow between 5 and 8%, and they'd only credit 3 to the borrowed funds. No flexibility, and the contracts are dividend driven. And dividends from life insurance are not dividends like you get from a stock. They're refunds of a premium overcharge. This is your treasury decision. Dividends declared by participating companies are not dividends in the commercial sense of the word, like a gain in a stock. They're just simply refunds of the policyholder of a portion of an overcharge that was collected. So when you get a dividend on your whole life, the agent says, hey, you're getting a dividend this year. There's a senator in Massachusetts who's trying to get the companies to stop calling refunds dividends. Call them what they are. They're refunds of a delivered premium overcharge. Well, where did all this go? Well, where are we going here? Everybody in this room is okay. But if I had 150 people there, I always see this face right about now. It's not really the deer in the headlight face. It's more like this here, you know? But we got to get through this because this is what everybody's doing. Buy term, invest in difference. How many people are buying term here? Term insurance? A couple? How many people are buying whole life insurance? Okay. All right. Well, here's what I'm going to do at this point. I'm going to talk. Instead of going through a whole bunch of crazy stuff. What we we did, once we saw the way policies were constructed, we went to Old Mutual, and I told you, we had them build a contract. When it came to putting the cash value dollars into the contract, we knew we had the money liquid, so if someone put money in, they'd get it right away if they needed it. We knew we had an exit strategy, so if they want to get money out tax-free for the retirement, we built it up. Charge to, credit to, loan. Then it came down to how do we let the money compound? I'm going to get a little technical, but if you hang with me, I'll show you what we did. The insurance companies, to put the cash values away, they go out and they buy government bonds. Everybody buys government bonds. If the government goes down, everybody else goes with it. The insurance companies would be next to last to fold, because they bought all government bonds. The company would take the government bonds with your premium dollars that everybody pays, and they put them into reserves. And the reserves make sure that no one loses any money. That's why your money's guaranteed. And then they would take the interest that they made when they bought the bonds. So when they buy government bonds, the bonds will pay an interest rate. They'll tell the company, this year the bond will pay 4.3%. They used to take that interest rate, they take a little bit of profit out of it, and they throw it into the reserves along with the bonds themselves, and they come up with a current rate of 4, guarantee of 3, and for the lifetime of the product, you'd have 3.5% rate of return, which isn't nothing really, minus loans and fees. What we did in 2003 is we said, let's buy the same bonds, let's put the bonds in reserves, and just guarantee principal. That's it. No interest rate. Just guarantee a principal so you don't lose. Let's take the whole spread and go to Wall Street and buy a 1-year call option in the S&P 500. So in other words, we're gambling with that money. We're throwing it into the stock market. We want the market to go up. If the market goes down, we don't make any money. That call option expired worthless, so we get a zero that year. When the market goes up, we get a double-digit return. And we factored it in, so now I'm going to go back and I'm going to fly across some of these slides to make the pain much less. Here's what we did. I'm looking for this. Well, I'll tell you what, that's not to see. So here's what we did. We ran a 50-year history. I have to go back, and it's not a big screen, so it's tough to see. And I know you may really struggle with this one, but I'll explain it to you. What we wanted to see was buying a bond and putting that in reserves with the interest. Is that the best way to go? Or is it better to buy a bond, just guarantee principal, and get that option in there? So here's what we did. This is the S&P 500, a 50-year history. It's every 15 years from 1959 on. So 1959 to 74, 1960 to 75, 61 to 76. In every 15-year period, when you look at the stock market, the S&P 500, which is where we have a lot of money in our 401ks, it's pretty impressive. From the 1970s on, that's why everybody likes the S&P 500. Now this shows us no cap on the upside of the index, no cap on the downside. It's just a pure market. When we buy the options, we're limited to what we can make on the upside. They cap it. It's been as high as 17, it's been as low as 9. That's the most we can make, 9% up to 17. So we took 13 as a midway cap. When the market goes down, we don't lose any money. We get a 0. When the market goes up, you get as high as 13. And we ran this through the same 50-year history. When you look at these rates of return, it's always between 6.5 and 8.5. We found a way to guarantee someone's money so that they never lose and hit a return of 6.5 to 8.5% in the side fund of a life contract with the money liquid, available, and tax-free. That's why 53 companies would do $1.5 billion of premium this year. What's interesting is if you look at the last slide, the last 15 years in the true market, 94 to 2009, we had 2 bear markets. The market crashed twice. It only averaged 3.66. We averaged 7.45. Because when the market collapses, it's the best thing in the world for this product. And I want to show you why, and then we'll kind of wrap it up. Here's a product now. In 2003, I was uninsurable because I had 2 heart attacks and I had 2 angioplasties and 2 stents. In 2007, I had bypass surgery. So then I'm back in the game. By the way, if you have a bypass, you're okay. you got another 100,000 on you, so they'll sell you life insurance. And that happened to me because I had mercury poisoning. When I was a kid, my mom dated a guy that owned a candy company, and by the time I was 15, I had 22 fillings, all mercury, all silver. And over the years, they just leaked into my system, and mercury hardens the arteries around the heart and lungs. So that's my story. My older brother, he died at 39 from a heart attack, and I have a twin sister who's had bone cancer for 19 years. And it's all because of the mercury in the system. So I was uninsurable, so I used a surrogate. I found someone else, my nephew, who worked in my company. I made him the insured, but I funded the contract as the owner with all my cash. And in 2003, we filled the contract up, and I was filled up in November 2007. The S&P 500 was at 1451, and a year later the market crashed. Everybody lost a ton of money. Remember 2008? Yeah. Everybody lost all their money. Well, I didn't lose any money because remember, you have a guarantee of no loss, no principal. Then watch what happened after that. The following year, we started at 850. The S&P went to 1109. The cap that year was 15. Now the market went up 26%, but the cap was 15, so I grabbed a 15% return on safe money. Then the next year, we went from 1109 to 1197 in the S&P, and I locked in an 8% return. And by the way, at the end of the year, whatever you earn, it locks into the account and it becomes principal. So you never give it back in case the market goes down in the future. Once it's earned for keeps. Then we went from 1109 to 1197, and 1197 to 1257, I got a 5% return. Then we went 1257, 1353, I got a 7.59. And recently, everybody locked in at 10% because the market went straight up. It's up over 1,800 now, 1,800, 2,000. So what we've done is in the past 12 years, we've averaged 7.89% with the money liquid available and tax-free. And if you look at a tax year equivalent, if you had to pay taxes, it's like earning 11.55. This is how these products are sold around the country. You see these advertisements in Smart Money, Kiplinger's. The upside potential of the S&P 500 combined with a principal guarantee, and you really want to get riskier with your retirement dollars. Now here's the Reader's Digest version here. After a seminar like this, people will come to me, Julius or Tom, in one of two ways. And they'll say, look, I've got some old life insurance products. If I convert them to one of these new products, where I have accessibility, I have full disclosure, I can get in and out without loads of fees, what are my guidelines? What can I do with the insurance policies that I have? How much can I put in? How fast can I get it in? And so forth. And then we'll set them up like that. The other people will come in and say, I don't have any life insurance. I don't have a need for it. But I have a bunch of money that I'd like to put into one of these. I'd like to be able to access it tax-free. I like all that. I realize that even though I don't need life insurance, I'm paying for that life insurance with a portion of interest that I'm not making anywhere anyway, so let's give it to the American Cancer Society, or I gave mine to the Shriners Hospital, where I took my policy in 2007 after I had the bypass. I hadn't met my wife yet, I wasn't married. I got two nephews that never worked a day in their life. And I said, you know what, I'll give the death benefit to the Shriners Hospital. I'm the guy that put that big, if you ever go in there, there's a big toy in the lobby with the animal. I put that in there. And I did that because I had no place to send the money, and I couldn't think of a better place to control it. So that's how I did it. But when I got married, I was forced, physically forced to make change. No, actually, she's pretty good. It's part hospital, part general. Now, you can buy one of these policies and just pay minimum premiums, as low as you have to pay to get the death benefit. And the beauty of this is whatever you could put in as a maximum according to the tax code, if you put in the minimum, let's say you put in 500, you could have put in 5,000. That 4,500 rolls to the future, so you don't lose it. So what happens is people will come into me after having this maybe for 8 or 9 years, and they'll say, my dad died, I sold his condo or his house, I got $115,000, I want to throw it in there so I can get it when I need it. I say, wait a minute, let's call the company, find out how much would the tax code have allowed you to put in, how much did you put in, and then just write a check for the balance. So when you open up the corridor, you're building it for the future as well as the immediate. Okay? What else we got here? Okay, well, here's the contract. This is the F&G choice. We have zero spread borrowing beginning of the 11th year. The first 10 years, if you're going to borrow, you'll pay 2 points. They'll borrow it far 4, they'll credit 2. But you don't have to borrow if you're not going to put the money back. You can just take it out. There's no surrender penalty on all the excess cash that we've been talking about that you put into the policy. So it's accessible. They gave us a choice. They said, how do you want the loans on these contracts to work? You want us to work like we do with mutual funds and 401ks? They take about a point and a quarter every year off the rolling balance of your account if you look at your statements. And we said, is there a better way to do it? And they said, yeah. If you want to lower your commissions, we'll take 5.5% up front, one time, on each contribution, and we'll never sales charge that money again for the life of the contract. So it'll be wide open. Well, in the long run, this is obviously the way to go, so that's how we set it up. It's 7.5% charge on the insurance, 5% on the excess, and each contribution is only touched once, instead of the next 30 or 40 years. So we think it's the lowest loads that exist in the insurance industry. After you do that, they charge $10 a month to buy the options. And this is important. We're the only one out of the 53 carriers that when we take the cost of the insurance off the latest mortality table, which is the 2001 table. By the way, that table was created January 1st, 2009. It no longer goes to age 100. It goes to age 120. Which means anybody who bought a policy prior to January 1st, 2009, you're on the old mortality table. It went to 100. When the law was passed January 1st, 2009, they didn't tell the companies to go back and fix the old contracts, only for new contracts written January 1st, 2009 and forward. So people need to be proactive, and you need to fix your life contracts. You have to update these tables, because they're not going to do it. And our contract is the only one of the 53 that we take the cost of the insurance right off the latest mortality table. We do not add an expense charge for each $1,000 of insurance purchased by the consumer. We kept that charge off the product. How do people fund their contracts? They fund it with non-performing assets, interest, bank CDs, money markets, IRAs. It's like a Roth conversion. They'll pay a little tax today, they'll move it over to where it's tax-free. Some people use old cash values of their old policies. Some people will set these up knowing money's coming down the road from an inheritance or a sale of a property. There's all kinds of ways to do it. I'm not going to fly through this, but I want to get right down to this guy. Oh, by the way, this is kind of interesting. These are the latest life expectancy charts. And I try to show people this because we're going to live a lot longer than we think we are because of medical science. They're going to have us kicking around for decades longer than we thought. So when you think about how much money you have and how long you might live, we got to start doing some things different, like keeping Uncle Sam out of our retirement checks. Today, if a man gets to 65, he's got a 50% chance to go to 85 today. And a 1 out of 4, 25% chance to go to 92. If a woman gets to 65, she's got a 50% chance to go to 88. And a 1 out of 4, 25%, to go to 94. And this one here, I've been around long enough to understand how this works. If the husband and wife both get to 65, and the wife nurses the husband along with her, because that's what happens, guys. I see it all the time. They're strong as can be, and the old guys coming in that I saw. But one of them has a chance to go to 92, or a 25% chance to go to 97. So we got to do things different. We have to take advantage of what's out there today. We have to upgrade things. So I'm not going to fly through these real quick, but here, this guy couldn't have said it any better. Life insurance is the only, he's an old friend of mine. He used to be the president of Fireman's Fund, Gordon Gaddy. Life insurance is the only industry that tries to keep people from trading in obsolete products for new improved versions. So if you try to get rid of your old life policies, they'll send you letters, oh, you sure you know what you're doing? Let us send a guy over. Believe me, upgrading your life contract is the smartest thing you can do. Because if you go from the old mortality table, watch this. This is the old mortality table right up here, the 1980. That's what it used to be. This is a male and female as a percentage of. Look at the discounts. It's like 25 to 60% discount off the cost of the insurance if you're on the new table. So you can take your old policies, keep the premiums exactly the same, and either raise the death benefit or keep the death benefit the same and compound more cash. It has to happen. It's just a mathematical function here because everything is lower and the cash is compounding higher. So if you sit with Tom and Julius, and if you want me to tag along, I'm local, so usually if I'm in Texas, I'll say, I'm flying out tomorrow morning, everybody, and there's Tom and Julius, and you can deal with them. But this is kind of unique because I'm still hanging around. I only live in Wilbraham, so if you check the evaluation sheet and you want me to come with Julius or Tom, just want to put a note on top, have Scott come. I'll find a way to get there. You know, there's an old saying, if you want something done, ask a busy guy to do it. I'll find a way to get there, all right? I was going to open it up now to, I'm going to read this to you. I read this whenever I deal with, you know, a lot of wealthy people sitting in the audience, because we know they all have the gatekeepers of Merrill Lynch. I don't know if we got a lot of gatekeepers here. I think you're probably doing your own investing. But the gatekeepers, they don't want to give away a dime of any money that's under their management. And without knowing what they're talking about, some people will leave a meeting like this, they'll talk to a guy and say, hey, what do you think? I saw this guy doing a seminar about life insurance, and they immediately go into, I know what equity index life is, I know how it works, and I know it's rarely suitable for anybody. Now, this is a 5-star financial planner. The higher internal insurance expenses and the higher internal fees make it very likely the policy blows up in the later years, right when the contributors are planning to use the money. Ooh. In the current market environment, the cost of the insurance company of buying the options to the indexes are at all-time highs, meaning the cap rates are far below the historic average. Showing somebody an illustration with an 8% average rate of return is disingenuous at best, because you'd be lucky to eke out 2 or 3% in this economic environment. At that rate, the cash value of these policies cannot support the internal fees and expenses. Now, the average consumer reading that would go, wow, I'm glad I talked to this guy because he would have saved me from making a bad decision. There isn't anything that's the truth in that entire paragraph. I'll show you why. Let's get through the first 3 sentences where this guy thinks he knows everything. The higher internal insurance expenses and internal fees. These are the lowest in the history of this industry. We have a new mortality table, and we have no expense charges connected to the cost of the term insurance. And the fees are the lowest I've ever seen in 40 years. So how did I handle this? This was from a doctor who was ready to take the policy, went on Facebook and said to his friends, I'm about to do this tomorrow, write the check, what do you think? Well, of course, everybody pounded him with answers, and this guy gave him this. So I said, have this guy come into your office any day next week. He's down in Rhode Island. I'll readjust my schedule to show up with our contract and have him bring another specimen policy from any U.S. life company, lay it down alongside, and show us cheaper term rates and lesser fees. You'll never see this guy. He won't come because it's all talk. But let's continue. In the current market environment, he says, the cost of the insurance company buying the options are at all-time highs. Absolutely incorrect. Option prices right now are 30% lower than they've been for years. They were the highest in 2008 when the market was up 600 points in the morning and down 400 points at the end of the day. And those option prices were off the Richter scale. So he doesn't even know what he's talking about, but listen to what he says. With option prices being at all-time highs, caps are at historic lows. Well, if my low is going to be a 9% return, I'm a happy guy. And he actually put a feather in our cap. Because if it goes up from 9, everyone would take a 9. But a 12, 13, 15 is even better. So he doesn't know what he's doing. But here's the best part. Showing somebody an 8% return on is disingenuous at best. Lucky to eke out a 2 or 3%. Every one of the 53 carriers publicly documents their rate of return since the inception of their product. And every single one of them is over 6.32% and as high as 8. So when you say they'd be lucky to eke out a 2 or 3, this guy's know as much about this as he does nuclear fission. And that's the way people react. Guys from Mass Mutual, Prudential, New York Life, they don't have one of these yet. The best defense for not having a product is an aggressive, misleading offense. Don't let somebody talk you out of something that is already time tested. With 50 plus carriers, we have John Hancock now. We have Prudential. Well, I mean, they're loaded up pretty well, but these are the carriers that are jumping on board. We have North American, we have Pac Life, we have Fidelity, we have Western Reserve, we got some major carriers. This is a breakthrough in the industry, and I would strongly suggest, check your boxes, have Tom, Julius, they want me along plan, we'll review your contracts, we'll keep your premiums the same, premium the same, and we'll show you how to take a lot more advantage of the premiums you're paying. Whether you're paying $50 a month or $500 a month, it doesn't matter. You can adjust your programs and you can increase it. One more thing about term insurance. If you own term insurance, it is the most dangerous product in this country, and I'm the guy that has to clean up the mess. I'll give you an example of how term works. Does anyone have a 20-year term here? Almost kind of a 20-year term? If you go home and you look at that policy in year 21, what you'll see is a premium that might be $1,000 a year. In year 21, it will be $90,000. And no one's ever going to pay that. But that's the guaranteed rate if you can't pass the physical. The problem is, agents who sell term insurance say, don't worry about that, because there's a conversion clause that says if you get sick, you don't have to pay the $90. We'll let you convert without taking a medical exam. And this is where the slick attorneys come in. You ever see the TV commercials for USAA? I was a veteran, I buy life insurance or auto insurance. Well, let me show you how wonderful USAA is in Texas to their policyholders. Most companies will allow you to convert for the 20 years. So when you get to year 19 and you realize, wow, my A1Cs are over 10, I've gained 40 pounds, I had bypass, I can't pass a physical, I don't have to pay that $90,000, I can convert. What's the conversion? Well, with USAA, the conversion ends in the 17th year. Now, why the 17th year? Everybody figures it out in year 19. So if they're unhealthy and they can't pass an exam, they're not stuck covering. They just get rid of it. Well, can you pay the 90? I can't pay $90,000. That's what happens. Northwestern Mutual will allow you to convert to anything we're selling in our portfolio for the first 10 years. I run into guys in year 16, year 18, 15, gained weight, lupus, they got cancer. Well, what happens now? You can't pass a physical. Well, you got to pay $90,000 in year 21. I can't afford that. Why can't I convert? It ended 6 years ago. It ended 8 years ago. And then the ones that cover for the full 20 years, the definitions are the best. We'll cover you for the full 20 years, and we'll allow you to convert without taking a medical exam to a plan we will make eligible for this purpose. How's that one? Won't be the $90,000. It'll only be $48,250. Might as well be $90,000. Nobody's going to pay it. That's what happens in term insurance. So if you're going to buy term insurance, ask Julius for a Minnesota Life contract. We went to Minnesota Life and we said, some people want to buy term, they can't afford permanent insurance right now, but we need to give them a conversion that covers them for the full length of the 20-year term. But we want the definition to be not a plan we will make eligible. We want the definition to say we will allow them to convert to our entire portfolio. And any product we're selling on the open U.S. market is available for conversion. That means if you get sick at the end of the 20 years, you can find a policy that's their most competitive product in the country at a reasonable premium, and you can take it out to your passing and have life insurance for your family. And this is my favorite slide of all, because I'm done. Thanks, everybody. Did anyone have any questions? I'm the only thing standing between you and the food, so I guess you can hit it, and then if you have any questions, I'll be around. Just raise your hand. I'll walk around while you're eating. Be glad to answer it, unless you've got things to add.
Yeah. Just wanted to once again thank everyone for coming out. The food's there, so you can help yourself. Please fill out the value sheets if you could. I do have a DVD if you prefer to check out the DVD I have. What that is also some other resources and information to re-emphasize some of the stuff that Scott talked about. Ed Slott is a certified financial planner. He did a seminar in front of an audience talking about the benefits of utilizing life insurance. He doesn't sell insurance, he doesn't sell investments, but he's talking about it from an accounting perspective as a certified accountant. And I think that would be helpful. And it's another way of getting some more independent information. And also, Scott is throwing a lot at you, and a lot of times we only can retain with so much information. But it's another way maybe to look back when you get home and kind of revisit some of the things that he's talked about through Ed Slott, who's a CPA. Also, for those that are participating in 401ks or 403bs or those type of plans, 60 Minutes and Bloomberg News did a documentary on those plans, and I think that'd be very helpful when they talk about the fees and things that are robbing people of their rate of returns over the years, and how companies that used to do pensions now do 401k plans, but the problem of it is they're not professionally managed like the pensions were. They don't give you the same guarantees. So now people are realizing, because there's enough data out there since they've gotten in place in the 80s, that they haven't nearly come near as close to performing as well as the folks that had pension plans. So when we look at our options of these 401ks, we really look closely at what we're doing, what other alternatives that we can look at. So I wanted to share that information with you as well. So on the about sheet, I can see either some video clips of that information. If you prefer a DVD, let me know and I can give you a DVD tonight as well, okay? And that's for free. Once again, I want to thank you all for coming out. Tom, any closing remarks you'd like to make? Tom?
Yes. Again, it's just about tax strategy, tax-free income. And if anyone has any questions that's associated with that, how it affects your taxes, feel free to talk to myself, Julius, or maybe Scott. Tax strategies. That's what this seminar is all about. Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. Any questions? Please help yourself to the food. Does anyone have any questions for Scott? I mean, you can help yourself at any point, but just leave it open to you guys at this point. Anyone have any questions for Scott at all? Okay, let's see.